This is Patrick Roth, Senior Support Technician for U1 Business Solutions. Today we're going to look at creating a SmartList builder go-to, and using the go-to, we are going to set a radio group field that our window we want to go to requires. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just take a quick peek at the window. So the window that they wanted to go to was the receivable summary inquiry window, and we notice that there's a drop list, so you can have different filters, and then you can do all, or we can do specific. So conveniently enough, it's by customer ID that we have, and so we're going to also do it by customer ID. And then we notice that the range restriction that we want to set, we need to set this radio group, we need to set it to the from, and then we need to set this field and then this field. And we notice that if I set the from, let's just set that and we tab off of it, we notice that GP automatically fills in the to value to the same value, assuming that we want to just filter to that one specific customer. So that'll save us a step. And once we do that, we can press the calculate button and it'll show us the values in this window that the customer likes. So we notice that the field here, and then the radio group, and then the from and the to, or in this case, actually, we just need the from. Now, the one thing that's interesting about creating go-tos is that you always need to know the DEX name of the fields, and most of us don't know that. You wouldn't have access to the source code, of course, in GP. You maybe could find it out using modifier. You could find it out using VBA. You could find it out using DEX. You could find out use of tracing. It's quite a few different ways. One of the easiest for an end user would be to just record a macro. Whoops, button. Tools, macro record. And so I'll just record this to see temp, title.mac. Sure. And now if I click this field, click that to make sure we get the name. We're going to get the name. We're going to set this back and forth a couple times. And then last, we were going to set this back to Aaron Fitz, and we'll tab off of it. And if we stop the macro tools, macro, stop record, and it was in the C temp folder. So if we look in the C temp folder at our untitled.mac, here's our customer sort by field, which is our drop list. This is the field from all and from, and it tells us what it set it to. So that's nice and convenient for us to help narrow down which field we're looking for. So it's L range type. And then the field for our customer isn't called start customer. It's called L range start 15 for whatever reason. So if we can remember that, we'll close this window. Now, if we go back to where we started from, they just had a simple window with just customers, and it could be whatever. But in this case, we want to do that. Now, radio groups are sort of interesting, and I closed the window. Let's open that back up again. Sales. Drop lists are one based, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Typically, they're always 1, 2, 5, 6. Radio groups are zero based, so the first one. So radio groups are either going to be left to right, like most of them are. Once in a while you get them that are top to bottom, but the top one or the left one, whichever it comes out to be, is always the 0, and then it's 1, 2, 3, how many ever items that they're in there. So again, we just need to set the first one, which would then be the value 1. Okay, so if we go back to our smart list, so we need to set this value 1. We maybe have data that would be a 1 in our data someplace, but since you couldn't necessarily guarantee that, it's always just easy enough to make a calculated field. So I'll make a calc field called calc1, and it's going to be an integer, and in it is, we're just going to put in 1. So we don't need to see this on the report. It doesn't need to be marked to display. We just need this for later on to use in our go-to. So we will set that, and then we're going to make our form. Now, they already have the open form, and we don't have any tasks. But this one here would take us up to opening up the window and then do nothing. Basically, the same thing as what we do is inquiry, sales, receivables, inquiry. We'll open it up. So now let's set this. Now, again, we noted that the customer sort by was there, but under defaults, just to make sure that if I change things, it would still work. So what we can do, conveniently enough, is that in this case, we already have the constant of 1. So I'm going to make it actually calc 1, even though it defaults that way, because what if I open up the window, set it to what I want it to set to, and then later on try to use the goto, we want it to be proper for what the goto is expecting. So we'll just set that since we already have it handy. Then the next thing is that L range type field, also a calc field, same calc field. And then lastly, we need to set our L range start 15, which is our customer. So we set our customer. Let's go down here, and here's our customer number. Notice too, I didn't mention it, but notice too, it's set a field value and run the field script is the default. You almost always want to do that because we're almost always setting a value, and then we want it to run the GP code behind the value. If it didn't, then certain things probably wouldn't happen. So like the defaulting of the customer from and then the to value wouldn't happen if we did it. It might still work, it might not. Depends if the GP code behind the window, but best practice is always to set this. And now we have our 3 values, the customer sort by, which we again technically didn't need, the radio group, setting it to 1, setting it to the customer that we selected. And the last thing is we need to push the button. Now, remember I just said run the field or set the field and run the script. Well, in this case, we're not setting a field value, so it's just run script. And the field is conveniently named calculate button. Whoops. We want the calculate button. And so now we have our 4 fields that we're going to set. Default the go to, so we can double click on it, and then we'll save it. So if we close this and fire up SmartList, oops, and I just put in additional SmartList, RM customers. And here's my customer list, nothing fancy. Let's do Astor Suites, double click. And we notice that it worked. It defaulted, which again, we also set. We notice our radio group is set, and then the from value that we set, but then the GP code filled in the 2 for us, same as it would manually. And then lastly, it pressed the calculate button and it's set. So this worked. So hopefully this is an example of how to use go-tos and setting radio groups. Again, the key is knowing that they're 0-based. And then the second part, of course, is knowing what name the field is. Mine was called L range by, which a lot of them will use those words, but again, it depends on the situation or what they're doing with the fields in the window. And so the macro trick is the easiest trick for an end user to use to know what the names are to do that.